Awesome. All right, welcome everybody. Today we have 4 awesome past Avocademy grads that are joining us to answer all of your questions. They should be spotlighted. Can I get some like thumbs up if you all can see us 5 here? Well, we see each other. Yep, awesome, cool. So in the crowd, we have possible future Avocademy students, and we have current students, both from Foundations program and Career Jumpstart program. Before we get started, I'm just going to explain what that means, just in case some of you don't know and you don't hear us saying all these words, so you have no idea what they mean. At Avocademy, we have 2-stepped program. So the first step is called UX UI Foundations. You may hear these folks refer to it as Foundations or Intro program. That program is 8 weeks long, and you're learning kind of the basics and doing like an individual project in it. And then the second program is called Career Jumpstart. Some folks may call it CJ. And in that program, you spend about 2 months working on real life client projects that we do pro bono for startups and nonprofits. And once you do that, we spend about anywhere from a month to 6 months looking for work. So helping you through the interview process, mock interviews, design challenges, all sorts of stuff. So that's a little bit about the programs. We're happy to answer questions about like specifics and all that. Sadi will be in the chat answering any questions that are about the programs itself. But today, we actually want to start by asking these 4 lovely humans that have decided to join us today any questions about their experience. So if you all want to start putting questions in the chat, we'll start by doing some quick intros. So maybe Alex, you can kick us off by just telling us kind of like what you did before you became a UX designer and a little bit about what your experience is. And then you can hand it off to one of the other people here.
Yeah, sounds good. Hi, everyone. My name is Alex. Like Maka said, I have a background not in design. I actually was a big sales guy, did some training and insurance as well for a while. Did sales probably for most of my professional career. After that, I obviously joined this lovely boot camp right at the beginning of the pandemic. So that was the time to just do something new. And now I work for a company called Trimble, and I'm the mobile app designer for one of their products. So that's what I do now. So I'll throw it over to Carlotta.
Thanks, Alex. Carlotta, I am in Indianapolis, Indiana, and before I joined Avocademy, I had worked in sales as well for a really long time in the freight industry, started in operations and then worked my way into sales. And now I am the sole UX designer at Mastery Logistics, and they're based out of Chicago. And Jenny, how about you go?
Sure. I'm Jenny. I live in Denver or near Denver. And before Avocademy, so I've had a few career pivots or outright changes in my life. But before Avocademy, I was doing industrial design, which is very similar to UX design, except with physical products. So furniture, lamps, kind of whatever you can think of. And I worked in museums and did some graphic design, and then just kind of was looking for the next thing and joined Avocademy and did the Career Jumpstart program. And I started working as a product designer for a insurance tech company here in Denver in November. So we have a lot of products and they're very outdated looking. So there's a lot of work to be done. All right, go ahead, Benny.
Hi, everybody. My name is Benny, and I live in Stamford, Connecticut. I'm turning 40 this year. So for those who are wondering how is it ever too late to, switch your industry? It's never too late. And before I found Avocademy, I was working in the education industry forever. I started working in 2005. So I did that for a whole of 15 years until I found this wonderful school and changed my career forever. And now I'm working as a UX researcher on the UX research team with Morgan Stanley.
Awesome. Thank you all. Okay. We have some questions that were sent in before the call. And we have one question coming in, and hopefully we'll have more questions from the other 70 some folks that are on this call. So let's start with a question that was sent in here. What would you say was the most crucial part of your application when looking for your first UX job? Resume, portfolio, experience, and how did you showcase it during your interviews? We're going to go backwards. Benny, you want to go first?
I would say it's not gonna sound that great, but I would say like fake it until you make it, right? You always want to, when you're going to the office, you want to dress the part, right? So when you're doing your interviews, you want to, I don't know, behave or perform as if you really know, right? But of course that will require a lot of, foundation work, right? When you're studying with Avocademy or anything you're studying, you have to make sure you really know what you're talking about. I would say that's definitely the most important point from my perspective.
Yeah, I would say it's hard to tell, when you apply for jobs, you submit your resume and your portfolio. So it's hard to tell what, caught their eye or like why they asked you for an interview. So, but I would say, if you have, if you have previous experience that doesn't seem like it's related to UX, that it probably is in some ways, and like really kind of put some thought into how to explain that and put it on your resume. So, you were a good problem solver at your previous job. That's related to UX. So that's what I would say is kind of think through some of your previous experience, really be able to talk through your portfolio in an interview. Those are kind of key.
Yeah, I think we have a whole lesson in Career Jumpstart about how to translate your current experiences in your resume. And from my perspective, I think the most important part is your portfolio, right? Like all four of you have very different experiences in terms of how much experience you have, whether you went to college or not, what you studied in college, and you all ended up at like pretty great jobs. So I would say in my experience, portfolios are like what matters the most, but your resume does need to be at a good place, which is kind of why we tell you all, right? Like, and I think we give an example, like if you work at Chipotle, how would you take that experience and put it in your resume and like take those applicable skills, right? Like any job, like service industry or not, you can find what applies to the UX field. Any other inputs to that question? We don't all have to answer all of them, but if you all have.
I definitely agree with Jeannie and what she said earlier, and also Maka. Whatever you did in the past, a lot of them could probably be really connected to UX design. Like I was in education for that long, right? But the skills that needed to be a good UX researcher were the skills that I was using, practicing throughout my career, my previous career, right? So you can always think of things that can actually showcase your skills in this new industry.
I think also for myself, when I went about looking for jobs, I applied for companies that matched what my previous experience actually was. So I applied to freight companies or transportation companies, and that's how I ended up in the position that I currently have, because, somebody's always looking for really weird backgrounds. So, use that to your advantage when you're looking for jobs.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off that, and really everything Maka said too, and this is one of the things that they touch on in the course is, kind of think with keywords, and a lot of the times you're, on your screening calls with the recruiters or in the actual interviews, and as long as you throw out some really hot words, especially the ones that mesh well with UX, they like that, especially if you know what you're talking about. Something that helped me a lot, aside from, those keywords like being a problem solver, or being collaborative or whatever the case might be, is, also thinking a lot about acknowledging kind of where you are with your experience too. One of the things that I love to say about me is I'm aware that my experience is XYZ, but I want to impress upon you that, and then you can kind of dive into how much of a quick learner you are, things like that, because they get excited over not the skills that you have, but how eager you are and passionate you are for growing with them and everything, depending on the company. Obviously, not every company is like that, but a lot of the good companies, especially, they're more excited for you as a person, not necessarily on everything listed in your resume or portfolio.
Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. So let's start tackling some of these questions. Did everyone take the CJ course in addition to the foundations course? And if so, is that because you felt you weren't experienced enough to start applying after the foundations course alone? I'll answer the second part and then I'll let you all go around and answer. But the foundations course helps you build a portfolio and put one project into it. One project is definitely not enough to apply for jobs, even if you are the most experienced. Like if I had a portfolio right now with one project on it, I would not be able to find the job, even though I have years and years of experience. You need a full portfolio to be able to apply for jobs. But I'll let you all kind of go around. Alex, if you want to start that way around, if you did both programs.
Sure. Yeah. So both. I would say that, yeah, it was definitely because I, in general, had no experience in the field. So it really helped to kind of get that opportunity to now work with people within the course to do projects with, especially those collaborative projects. I didn't necessarily have a lot of people outside of the course in order to just connect with and kind of pick brains off of and work with. It's a nice place to be when you have Mock or however it works now with more mentors to kind of be like your leads or your senior designers to help move those big decisions along. Plus you get the clients too, the actual clients to have a conversation with. So all of that's helpful to have. And that's why I did it.
And I will say, apart from like all the help that you're getting through Career Jumpstart, like Alice said, I totally agree with having that opportunity to be working on a team in a real life setting, and you're actually gaining real life experience and practice, right, from this Career Jumpstart program. And then you will know exactly what you can talk about during your interviews, and that's definitely so super valuable. Because otherwise you wouldn't know, one, you wouldn't know how it is like working with real people, other designers. Two, you don't even know what the process is like, right? So I really thought that was really, really invaluable.
I also did the Career Jumpstart. My biggest takeaway from that, besides the projects, I made connections with people that I still talk to every single day, who also went through Career Jumpstart. So I think that's the most valuable takeaway aside from the projects that I worked on.
Yeah, and I would say ditto to everything. I did Career Jumpstart. I only actually did one project through Career Jumpstart because I was able to put a portfolio project in from my previous job. So, but still like super valuable to kind of work with other designers and be able to talk about that in an interview was like huge. They asked a ton of questions about working with other people. So yeah.
Cool, thank you all. Can you describe what your day-to-day looks like in your job? And I'm gonna combine with how was your first day or days at your current job? So maybe backwards, how was your first day and what does your current day look like?
I'll jump in there. First day was onboarding HR stuff. I would say the first couple of weeks are pretty much just paperwork. In general, once you get past that admin part, it's different depending on the job, I would say. But for me, it was, my day-to-day is different. Every single day is a little bit different. It really depends on what project I'm working on or the capacity. 1 week could be full of testing, 1 week could be full of research, 1 week could be full of just meetings, depending on what your organization and team structure is looking like. When I first started, it was right at the beginning of the year. So we had a lot of, a lot of meetings to start off the year, like a bunch of just collaborative meetings with the entire company, with our specific department and everything. But depending on obviously the role and what you're working on, you typically have a lot of autonomy in terms of how you structure your day and your calendar, especially if you're, a UX UI designer or even just a researcher, because a lot of it's kind of just you have your project managers or your senior leaders to kind of help make certain decisions or guide and requirements. But a lot of the time you're kind of managing your own schedule, and that day-to-day becomes more your decision.
Can you add if you work remote or not?
Yes, I work remote. My company is based out of Florida. I work from Scottsdale, Arizona.
Thank you.
I can go next. I'm also fully remote. Our headquarters are in Denver, which I am too, but no one on my team has been into the office since COVID started. So, and my position was hired as fully remote. And I would say, yeah, first couple of weeks, lots of onboarding. We have 20 products that our company owns, and they're all for insurance. And so it's pretty complicated. So the first couple of weeks were like a lot of just learning how our products work now so that I can make them better. And it was, yeah, a lot of like learning about the industry that I didn't know anything about the insurance industry before I started. So it was a lot of learning the first few weeks. And I would say today, day to day now, we have a team of 8 designers, and we have a design review 3 times a week in the morning. And we're all working on different products. So we're sharing with each other. So just, hey, I'm stuck on this spot. I need some feedback, that kind of thing in the morning. And then, yeah, kind of throughout the day, it really depends on what project I'm working on. And then also what stage of where is the project at? So like if it's been handed off to development, then I spend a lot of time answering questions because there's little things I forgot to think about, or like, hey, how does this work? What did you kind of think about this? I forgot to put some notes in my designs or something like that. So answering a lot of questions, and then just kind of like working on the products I'm working on next, making wireframes, making some demos, maybe presenting designs to the product owners or the product team. So it's different every day.
For me, I'm also fully remote. But my first day was just onboarding for weeks. But like I work with a team that's on Central Time. So everybody starts work at 9 their time. So I start at 10, which is really great because I can take my sweet time getting ready in the morning. And then my days really just look like 0 to 4 calls each day, very relaxed. I can chime in when I feel like it. And then I have like monthly projects that I work on by myself, which has been really great because I like independent work.
All right, well, I'm fully remote as well. Apparently we're all fully remote. I was hired for the New York City office, but I never need to go in anyway. I think my day is a little different from the rest of you guys. My onboarding took a long while, but I would say that my typical day-to-day, it really hugely depends on the project, because within Morgan Stanley, there are all sorts of different projects, and it depends on that specific project. You might be really busy for 3 weeks. And then for our UX research team, we are within the bigger UX team, but there are 12 of us as researchers, right? So say that right now I'm working on this one project. It typically, any project will take 3 weeks, 1 week to prep, 1 week to run, and 1 week to report. So now I just wrapped up a previous project like last Friday. So I was really busy last week, but this week I'm starting a new one. So I'm not as busy, but we generally have a lot of meetings, team sync meetings and team meetings, a lot of meetings. I would say probably close to the number of Carlota. We do like 2 to 4, sometimes even 5 to 6 meetings a day, a lot of meetings, but it's fun.
I'd also like to comment that my team only works Monday through Thursday. I mean, we work on Friday, but no one's ever working on Friday, which has been really nice.
Oh, I'm jealous.
Definitely changes from company to company. We'll say that.
It does.
No one talks about it, but we all know.
Yeah, we kind of have relaxing Friday afternoons. That's what we do. Like I would go out for a happy hour.
Yeah. my company has flex hours. A lot of them have like, they work 9-hour Monday to Thursday and then only half days Fridays, but it just depends. And a lot of the, especially if you work for like in an agile environment, you're going to have a lot of stand-ups and things like that in the beginning of the day, if not every single day in the morning. And then depending on how many products that there are, you might be on different teams. So they could all have different stand-ups at different times, but yeah.
So off of that, actually, I'm going out of order. Sorry for those putting questions, but there's a question here that says, do you find yourself generally sticking to like a 9 to 5 schedule, or are you working outside of these hours? And I think the question is about like, maybe let's say how many hours on average per week you work. Like, do you work more than 40? And is it like a normal schedule, or do you find yourself on like an 8 p.m. meeting sometimes? I think maybe that could help
I
in
don't.
terms of.
Go ahead, Benny.
I don't think I ever worked outside working hours. 9 to 5. It's always 9 to 5. Sometimes you got to finish early, but you never like work late. I've never worked late.
I would say similar. We never have meetings. All of our meetings are between like 9 and 4.
Yeah.
And partly because we're a big company and we have offices all over the country. And so those are kind of like 9 to 4 mountain time are kind of the hours. Sometimes there's a meeting before, like at 8:30 or 8, depending if it's an East Coast team. And then I would say generally, like no one expects me to work in the evenings. And I only do it if, I have a kid. And so sometimes I have to go pick up early, or I didn't get the stuff done I wanted to get done for the day, and I'll, hop on after bedtime and do a little bit, but that's definitely not expected or required in any way.
Yeah, I would just say it depends on a time zone. So yeah, if you work and it's just in a situation where you have to work, kind of like Carlotta, she starts at 10, she probably finishes later on, or not. But it also depends on you. Like I said, especially if your role is more independent, more self-driven, it depends on you completely, whether you're working a bit more or not. And also, aside from the obvious time management part of it all, if you are meeting with clients and the client does work again in a different time zone, you might work off of that. But I would say for me, I never necessarily work even 40 hours like consistently like that. I fit the gym into my work schedule. So it totally depends on you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's flexible. It also depends on like your efficiency, right? Like when I could get hours if I just like sat down and focused, or I could take 8 hours and like go get a coffee and like talk to your coworkers and then socialize. So it definitely depends. But it's great to hear that you all have like good work-life balance from like company, right? Like top down, and you're not expected to be on calls after certain times. Okay, let's talk a little bit about your experience from CJ, Career Jumpstart, to finding a job. So there's some questions around like, how much time was there between your job offer and your start date? That I know like Benny could probably an exception. Benny took a long time for Benny to start. And then how long did it take you to get an offer after finishing the course? So maybe we can just bundle those two together. Like how long did it take you to find a job, and then how long to start once you got the offer?
I'll start because I feel my experience probably is one of a kind. I'm not an American citizen. I'm a green card holder. I'm a Chinese citizen. That's why it was like sort of an international background check. It took like 6 weeks. But if you're American, you definitely wouldn't have that problem. And it took me.
Well, you'd be surprised, Benny. We've had other, I think it was because you worked internationally, right? We've had other folks with the same, background checks can take very long if you worked internationally. Yeah.
Right. Given all my past experience was all in China, right? So it took longer, I guess. And it took me about 4 weeks. Actually, it was exactly 4 weeks after I finished my Career Jumpstart program until I got a job offer. It was 4 weeks. And but the background check took a little longer. So I started my job at the end of November. There's no other questions, right?
No, that was it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can go next. And I was seeing a few questions about foundations too. So I'll just say I started foundations course in July. Like I think I signed up on the 4th of July. And it took me 10 weeks. And like I said, I have a 1-year-old. So I was doing everything in the evening after bedtime. So it just took me a little longer and working full time. And then I started Career Jumpstart in September and then I started applying for jobs in November. I started Career Jumpstart at the end of September, but I only did 1 project. So remember that I didn't do 2 projects. So, and then I got a job offer right around Thanksgiving and I started in December. So I had 2 weeks before from the offer to the start date. So I took, 3 weeks because I took a week off in between jobs. Yeah, so that was kind of mine. It was pretty quick.
It took you like a month, right, to find the job? Like total from when you month and a half?
3 weeks.
Yeah, 3 weeks. Yeah, it was fast.
It was fast. Mhm.
Yeah. Disclaimer too, the market's really, really hot right now. And I think Alex will talk about this too, because Alex has a little bit of a different experience.
Yeah, I took my time. I really wasn't in a hurry to get a job in UX specifically, because also my last job I was just very busy. But I would say that when I sat down and really actively applied, about 3 weeks as well before I actually got an offer. I will say I was a one-off. I got an interview and I got the screening call, an actual interview, like a Zoom interview, and then I got an offer within like 4 days. So that's not it's not an experience for everybody at all, but I would say about 3 weeks to get a job. And even that's a bit fast. But to Maka's point, yeah, the market's super hot. I would say that companies it's becoming more of a trend, especially if you're on LinkedIn and really following all this. A lot of companies are getting more excited on shortening that interview process because we need designers, we need UX designers. So it's one of those things that it depends on the company, but some interviews can be a couple of weeks long. In my case, obviously, it was a weekend essentially. So it just depends.
Yeah, what's happening is like companies are not moving fast enough. So we have that all the time. Like we have students that get 2, 3, sometimes 4 offers. Like we saw this a couple weeks ago in the same week, and those other companies lose that designer, right? Because they're going to only pick one job. And if companies don't move fast enough, they end up losing the candidates, which is a long and expensive process for companies. So we're starting to see those shortened like interview cycles.
Just to kind of go back over what Jenny said, just to give you guys an idea of the timeline, I signed up for the foundations course. I started in May. I think I took about 8 weeks to finish, and then I jumped right into Career Jumpstart. Did 2 projects and started applying for jobs in August and had a job offer in September and started 3 weeks later just because I didn't want to start right away. So for me, it was pretty quick. And I saw a question in there about like, how much time did I commit to the program? I did the foundations course part-time while working a full-time job. And then I decided to work full-time on Career Jumpstart. So I was able to move a little quicker through those projects.
Just to add on the timeline question here, I started on March 21st. I remember the date because before I signed up, I talked to Maka. I was getting so excited. I knew it was going to be a life changer kind of experience, So remember that exact date, March 21st. Then I think I finished right on time, 6 or 8. I forgot 6 or 8 weeks, and then I think I took about a month, 4 weeks break because I was really busy with my full-time job. I had a full-time job while I was studying, so no, I was not 100% dedicated, to the program, but it still didn't take me too long to finish. And I think I took a month off, a month and a half maybe, and came back in early July and started working on projects. Then by the end of August, I was able to have 3 finished projects on my portfolio and started looking for a job at the end of August. And by the end of September, I already got an offer.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you all. So let's pivot a little bit to have 2 other questions. So how do you make your portfolio stand out amongst the competition in a competitive job market? And how was the interview experience for you all? So I think those kind of go hand in hand. Did you all do anything special for your portfolios? And maybe one of you can just explain like how have you all set up portfolios, which I think I'll say that's the special thing. Alex did something different than the rest of you, but I don't know who wants to go first, talk about portfolios a little bit.
I'll have to say I was actually very scared after I finished the entire program, Career Jumpstart. I had no idea how to do a killer portfolio, right? But it was within the course at the end of it, and there's really clear like bullet points for you to do whatever you need to do for a good portfolio. And also Maka and all the other mentors were like really giving very, very helpful tips on building a great portfolio. So I think while I was working on it, then my fear started like going away. And then I knew I was going to have a great portfolio because of the syllabus, or the guideline that Avocademy is offering. Then I kind of remember Maka was telling you I was really scared, and then later on I got confident because of all the details that I saw and because of all the tips I got from other mentors.
Yeah, ultimately, like in the course, we set up the activities in a way that like you just write what you did for each activity in your portfolio. It tells a good story. So we really help you create that portfolio in both CJ and foundations. But maybe you all can talk about the interview. How was interviewing? Like, was it terrible? Were you scared at first? Were you not scared? Alex works in sales, so it was a breeze for him.
I mean, I'll say that it was super scary in the beginning because it's something that I hadn't experienced. I mean, I think it's a horrible comparison, but it's like applying to be a doctor. It's like it's a field you aren't familiar with, especially if you're brand new, and you start getting asked very technical questions sometimes, not necessarily always, but depending on the company, and you want to make sure you have a good answer. So it is relatively nerve-wracking at first, but I will say after a couple of interviews, you get really comfortable. You kind of expect what they're going to ask you. You can almost script out the questions they're probably going to ask you and have a ready to go answer. That's what I did, at least. Kind of jumping back to the portfolio piece, I think that even the best designers that I know that I work with, they don't have a really special website going for them. Like I put together a website portfolio that was with a bunch of pictures of me because I'm just super into myself. But aside from that, I mean, they care a lot about the content specifically. So I think one of the things that I hear a lot from new folks in the field who reach out to me on LinkedIn a lot is they're nervous about putting too much detail in their portfolios. And on the contrary, put a lot of detail. The more you explain your process, like the longer your case study is, the biggest compliment you're going to get is how thorough you are. So if you want to really stand out, don't try to streamline too much of your process. They want to see that you're super thorough. How it looks really doesn't matter too much to them. They care more about that UX part.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think, kind of attack your portfolio the same way as you attack the other projects that you're doing. Like think about hierarchy of information and like an outline, and kind of make it easy to follow, but like include, like what Alex said, include a lot of information about your process and how you think about things. Those are kind of key. And then, and you do that in the foundations course. It's like really prescriptive, like how to set up your portfolio. And then when you're doing your other projects and adding them to it, you just follow the same process, and it makes it a lot easier if you think about things. And even if you didn't do those parts in your project, that you explain why you didn't do them, and like, so that all those steps are still there. And then the interview process for me, I would say, it was nerve-wracking, and I don't know anyone that it wouldn't be.
Yeah.
But yeah, remember, like, you're the expert on your projects. And so that helped me kind of think about, like, I did this, so I should be able to talk about it. And so, yeah. And then also just, I think one thing that was really helpful in the Career Jumpstart too, is like people kind of keep a running list of questions they got asked in interviews. So you can kind of see what other people are experiencing in interviews, and kind of like read through those, and have an idea of what you might get asked. That helps at the beginning.
Yeah, and I think now, I mean, since you all graduated and have jobs, but we've actually expanded Career Jumpstart to not only have that list of questions that Jenny's mentioning, but we have a career mentor who actually is doing mock interviews, behavioral mock interviews, and portfolio walkthrough mock interviews. And it's not like a mentor like me that you would interact with on the daily, so you could do more of a mock interview. I'm not a very serious person, so I know I did with a couple of you some mock things, and like it wasn't super serious, but we do some of those as well as design challenges. Because Carlota, I think I helped you right with one of your design challenges too. But yeah.
Yeah, going through the
Yeah.
interview process was great because Maka was there every step of the way answering questions that I had and like checked over my design challenge for me. I mean, she was there through the salary negotiation and everything. So for me, that made Career Jumpstart like a huge bonus. But like the interview process, like if I was going to give one piece of advice to someone going through an interview, would be to sell yourself. Like, why do they need you? Why are you the person that needs that job above all other people? Like, what can you bring to the table that other people may not be able to bring?
And then on top of that, I would also say like it's a really competitive field right now. And so also remember that you're trying to figure out if you want to work there. So ask a lot of questions about the culture and like how people work together and what design reviews are like. And because you don't want to work in a place where people are mean or like only give negative feedback, or, you know, there's lots of things to think about.
Definitely.
But if it's a place that you want to work.
Just to add to that, interview them as much as they're interviewing you. You're going to get a lot of no's. It just comes with it. I mean, that's also another trend. You're going to have a lot of people, especially if like you're on LinkedIn, a lot of people kind of being upset that it's a bit hard to get a job, especially if you're entry level and people look for 3 to 5 years of experience and blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. Just if you think you can do the job, apply, get ready for the no's, but interview them as aggressively as they need to interview you, because it's such a hard market and there's a lot of competition out there. But at the end of the day, you don't want to work somewhere just because you got a job there and they suck as a company. You know, you want to make sure you get value from them. One of the biggest reasons I took the job with my company is because they support ongoing learning. And that's super important to me specifically. And it should be to really everybody in the field because things change so aggressively. And just to kind of give you an idea, I haven't done this course in about 2 years, and I'm still around talking to Haka and everyone. It's cool that we have such a great community here, but in general, it is a great community to kind of, you know, talk with and work with. And you want the company you work for to be as collaborative and that invested in you as you are in them.
And the one thing I have to add about interviews is that my experience is just like Alex's or everybody else's experience, right? The first couple, you're going to be really nervous. So I would suggest don't apply to your dream companies or something like that, right? At the very beginning, maybe do 2 with the companies for practice, right? And then you're going to get much better, just like Alex said. And again, you really have to make sure that you do dry runs before your portfolio walkthrough. I didn't do it. I totally messed up one interview because I thought, oh, you know, my presentation skills are so great, I don't have to do this. I was just, you know, trying to wing it, but I failed. So don't be like that. You want to maybe
Like button.
Seriously.
Yeah.
So they want me to talk about 3 different projects within 60 minutes, and I run overtime. I was still on my second one by, you know, the hour ends, right? So don't learn from me. Do a dry run with your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your family member, whoever it is, right? Make sure that you have the timeline right.
Yeah, and that's kind of why we started doing all the official mock interviews, is to make sure that like you've practiced. And what Benny said is something else we tell you is like, you know, don't apply to your dream job. Like your first couple interviews are practice for you, and if you kind of take them that way, you're less nervous and more likely to do better. So we have some questions around salary and negotiation. So you all don't need to answer if you don't feel comfortable doing that. I'll share the average US junior designer salary is $65,000 starting a year. Our graduate average is 85K, and the range is anywhere from like 55K to 156K. Benny's laughing. So if you all want to share either what your salary is or your range, feel free to do so. And if you don't, if you negotiated or not your salary and how you felt about negotiation. So please don't feel pressured to share your salary.
Yeah, I'm happy to share. There's a new law in Colorado that job postings have to have a salary range. So that's really helpful when you're applying for jobs. If they include, even if they're remote, a lot of times, if they're including Colorado in their list of places that you can work remote from, then they have to include it. So that's a really nice thing. And then one caveat to my job is that I am a product designer too. So my role is actually not a junior position, and that's because of my previous design experience and industrial design experience. So and the range on my salary on the job posting was 70 to 90. And they offered 90. So I didn't negotiate because I didn't know if there would be any room. And I also was very happy with what they offered. So I negotiated some other things. So like my start date, they really wanted me to start a week earlier, and I kind of negotiated a later time and some other smaller things, but that's where I am.
I can share if you
Oh, go ahead, Alex.
yeah. So I just first thing for anyone who's not in the course, who's considering the course, you're not going to necessarily graduate as an entry level. You're going to have a lot of really good nuggets from this course. I was hired as well mid-level, and I gave them a range of 80 to 100, not expecting they would give me anywhere in the middle, but they did offer 92. I didn't negotiate, but 92, and like I said, you're not really starting entry level after this. Entry level would mean you know very little. You're going to know a lot after this course. So.
I really didn't know if they hire me as mid-level or junior level, but I recently found out I was mid-level too. So like Alice said, right, you can't sell yourself short after this entire course with your past experience, depending on how you like repolish or revamp yourself, and you will be a mid-level too, right? And I didn't negotiate when they offer me, because I'm a contractor, so they offer me an hourly rate of $75, and I checked with Maka, it was a great offer, so I didn't really negotiate. So that works out as $156,000 a year. I'm very happy about that. So mid-level, not junior, and you can do that too.
And just to note, you all got mid-level roles, but we were like, I say we, like if I was applying with you all, we were applying to anything that said like under 5 years of experience. So they were type roles, you just ended up at like a pay band that was a little bit higher. Yeah, just to make sure people don't think like you all have like years and years of experience. Yeah, this is right out of the program.
For me, I live in Indianapolis, so the cost of living's pretty low here usually. And my total comp was around, I'm trying to do math in my head, with my bonus, just a little bit over 80,000. But I also get a $2,000 a year continued education stipend. And like I said, I don't have to work on Fridays.
Doesn't have to work on Fridays.
Yeah. Yeah, so I have like some other perks that come along with the job. And I did negotiate. Maka helped me do that. So yeah, and I would say I'm not entry level, even though sometimes I feel entry level in my mind.
I do too, you know.
When I first started, I felt below entry level. I was like, what did I get myself into? A month in, I was like, okay, no, we're good. They just call it different things. It's fine.
Yeah, I think Benny, I was talking to Benny once and he was like, should I tell them that I don't know? And I was like, you're fine, Benny, you're doing the job they're asking you to do.
I really was freaking out at the very beginning.
Make it is so true for at least a couple of
months. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely true.
Yeah, and then you realize like nobody really knows anything, and you like everybody knows just as much as you do.
Absolutely, especially if your company's been around for a while, you're going to end up teaching them a few foundational things. It's kind of cool depending on where you work. And I love what Carlotta said about the education. If you do work for a company that really values ongoing learning, ask them if they have like a stipend for ongoing education. That's awesome, because $2,000 a year is amazing for that. You can get a whole associates with that.
Right, that's wonderful. And I think for some companies we offer like internal training weekly. There's like 1 hour of training every week on a different topic. So that's pretty cool. It's not like within the salary or whatever, but it's just there. So for certain companies, I'm sure they offer that too.
Yeah, another thing too to add, not to keep going on about this, but my company is also going to get the entire design team certified as product managers in the spring. I'm not a product manager. I have no experience with PM work. Well, I do, but not really. So like that's a huge plus for me, because maybe one day I don't want to be a UX designer. I might want to be a PM. Now I've got to start in that as well.
That's awesome. Okay, we're gonna do some fast fire questions because we're getting to 10 minutes. So one word answers. How many projects did you have in your portfolio when you applied? And the question is, how many do you need on your portfolio? We say minimum 3 here. Okay, we're doing fingers. So 3. Alex had 4. Awesome. Low, medium, high. How would you describe your job in terms of stress? Low stress. Well, we know you don't work Fridays. Low stress. Okay.
Low
Yeah.
to medium.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of folks are saying, and we hear that actually from a lot, right? Benny, you were on a call with some of like the past, like the currently employed students that we did a couple months ago, and everybody was talking about how it wasn't too stressful.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's see if we have anyone struggle with working remote or adjusting to working remote. Or any tips for working remote?
You'll get used to it.
Yeah, I worked remote before this company, so I was pretty comfortable. I would say the most uncomfortable part of it is like onboarding, just because you don't have someone physically next to you to talk about paperwork, but you figure it out.
Yeah.
And I will just add one thing to that. One thing, someone told me to do this, and it was a really smart thing, is like, because you're not in an office, you don't necessarily learn really quickly, like who to ask about certain things. Like, just like company-wide stuff. And like, you don't have a buddy that's like, hey, what's, and you end up asking your boss a lot of things. But I asked my boss if she could like just point me in someone that's like super friendly and can kind of like answer questions about the company or like benefits or kind of those kinds of things. So just like ask your new boss to pair you up with someone that's like, just can kind of help you with that kind of stuff. That was a really smart thing that I did.
Yeah, that's smart. There's a question here about relationships with, if Avocademy has any relationships with organizations and companies, and we do. And also, like, honestly, our biggest resource is past students. Like Alex just referred somebody to his job. That's one of our current students that's about to graduate. Carlota's team, people in the industry, and like you're always asking me, right? Like in logistics, right? What is it that you all are looking for? Like developers and designers that have experience in the industry. Benny's referred people to Morgan Stanley. So we have direct relationships with recruiters, companies, and then our past students bring jobs to us for us to refer students as well. There's a question here about contract work. I think we touched on that. Benny is actually on a contract. So it's like it's still full-time, like 40 hours a week, but you're working for like an intermediary company, right? Which was like a little hard to understand, but I don't know if you want to give like a 1-minute summary of how that works.
Yeah, so short version is that they call it a full-time contractor. So I'm working 40 hours a week, right? That's why I have an annual salary anyway, but I'm hired by a third party, not a recruiting company, a tech company. But I'm assigned only to Morgan Stanley. That's why like I'm working full-time with Morgan Stanley anyway. I am their staff as well. So I really didn't understand this concept at the very beginning, but Maka did a great explanation to me, and it's great working as a contractor too.
Yeah, and you see much higher pay too in contract roles.
That's true. That's very true.
Yeah. What's the time commitment for foundations program? What would you also, like how long it took you to finish, like hourly number of hours per week, like 15, 20, like what did it look like for you all?
Probably 15.
Yeah.
I would
Something like that.
say 10 to 15, but it took me a little longer because I had limited hours. 10 weeks for me.
But you can do it in less time. I mean, you're not gonna finish it in like, what, I can't remember if it's 8 weeks or not, whatever the amount is, but
Six
I mean,
to eight or something.
but you
Yeah,
can
it's
that Malcolm's not gonna
yeah.
kick you out of the program if you don't finish early.
Yeah.
So
No,
we
I was
don't.
like,
Well.
yeah, 10 and a half weeks and no one cared.
Yeah. No, we have a success team that will be like, hey, you're planning on finishing, and we'll kind of hold you accountable to timeline, but we won't kick you out. And if you want to finish faster, which is another question we get, we've had students finish in 4 weeks if you're doing it full time, or if you're currently unemployed or have full time availability.
That was Kelsey, right?
Yeah, Kelsey's one of Kelsey's one of those people. Did anyone do take-home projects for interviewers? So did anyone do design challenges?
I did
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. Are those as bad once you understand how to do them? Nerve-wracking? No. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Malcolm will help you.
Yeah, we'll help you. Can the program be completed part-time? We just talked about that. Did you find your jobs on your own, or did Avocademy help? How was that process? I don't know if anybody wants to give like a quick overview of like how we track jobs and goals per week and things like that we have.
Yeah. Are you still using the program to track jobs?
Yep.
Hunter is what it's called, right?
Hunter, yeah,
Yeah.
that was really helpful. That was super helpful to keep track of everything. So yeah, they have a program that you can use if you're in the Career Jumpstart program to kind of keep track of where you are in the process with everybody and which jobs you've applied for. Because I would find myself thinking like, did I apply for a job here already?
Yeah.
So yeah, but I found my job on a Denver UX Slack group. That's how I found mine.
Yeah. And I think there's been a couple folks, right, from that Slack group, because
Yeah,
Tina shared it, and then we added it to the course, and we added like a bunch of Slack groups, and I think there's a couple of you that found jobs from that.
There's job postings all the time in the Denver UX group, so if you're looking,
Yeah.
it's a good place. They're almost
I
always
accepted
remote,
into the
too.
group right after I got the job. I was like, oh well, too late.
Yeah.
But yeah, tons of posts.
Avocademy, like within the course, I remember there's a whole list of platforms where you can find resources and job postings, right? So I remember that there's like a whole dozen of them. So there will be a plenty of jobs.
Yeah.
LinkedIn was my thing. I love LinkedIn, and you can obviously turn on those alerts for your phone and stuff too.
Yeah, we have now a job search channel where we're constantly posting very annoying notifications. Alex left the channel today. I'm gonna call him out on it. He was like, I don't want these notifications anymore. But every day we're posting, and you all are free to leave it too. I won't call you out on it.
Wow.
But yeah, we post jobs almost every day, either connections or referrals, or if you want to be referred to this job. So that's we have 4 minutes left. So I'm gonna close with this question, which is, there's a lot of comments about the low stress. People are really excited about low stress jobs. Somebody posted, what made you choose Avocademy over other boot camps? And what kind of education or research did you do prior to starting Avocademy? And no one's getting paid for saying this. Disclaimer.
I remember having a spreadsheet recording all of the information that I was looking through, so I actually compared all of the schools, possibly all the schools that you already know right now, so then to compare to all of them, one, I would say my first impression was customer service was good, because I reached out and I heard back really, really, really fast from Maka. And then I talked to quite a few schools, but I just felt Avocademy just give me the impression of being like really real and not trying to give me gimmicks and stuff, but I didn't feel like that with all the other schools. This is kind of how it felt, right? And I felt they were not trying to waste my time or my money to do that, because I didn't have a lot of time. I didn't want to invest a whole ton of money, right? So I think those were the perks. And I also saw the syllabus before I signed up. As I did my research, I forgot to mention, I actually studied with a platform I'm not going to mention the name, but for an entire year, I didn't like it. I think I mentioned to Maka the first time we talked, after that entire year invested in that website, I still didn't understand what the UX process was. And that's how much the website was teaching me, you know? So then after that experience, I was really, really careful, comparing all of the possibilities. And eventually I decided, and I made the right decision with Avocademy.
Yeah,
Um,
I'll be brief, but, oh, sorry, Carla.
No, you go ahead.
There were a few requirements for me, had to be low price. And then I also had to be something I could do kind of in the evenings. I couldn't attend classes. I was working full time and I had a 1-year-old. So I just like, there's no way I could have like made a rigid schedule work. So that was part of the reason I chose Avocademy too. And I also really knew I wanted to do UX. So I wasn't just exploring. I really knew that I wanted to do a program, and I knew I couldn't. The other side of it is I couldn't attend classes, but I also knew I couldn't do it on my own. Like I needed some accountability, and like I knew I could learn it on my own, but I knew I wouldn't. And so that was part of the reason I chose this one too. There's kind of a mix of those things.
I went with Avocademy because one, I found them on TikTok, and I live on TikTok, and I didn't want to spend a bunch of money on something that I wasn't for sure that I would love. And I knew that like traditional college wasn't a good fit for me. So I didn't want to go back to school because I never graduated college. And I talked to Maka and I was like, this is it for me. Just felt like, I don't know, we vibed for a few minutes. And I mean, what was I going to lose other than the initial investment, which I think was a pretty fair price.
I was pretty impulsive. I just kind of went with an Instagram ad, but I did do like a year of research of like, do I just find a syllabus and go at this on my own? And I was too lazy. I needed some structure, but also some flexibility. And then as soon as I met Maka as well, it was just one of those things that I just knew was genuine. It was like, I was going to get honest. It wasn't just going to be off a rubric type thing. It was like, we were going to have a conversation about some things and get some more ideas, get a bunch of links. And I still use a lot of these resources for just normal projects. I've saved so many links like in bookmarks. So yeah, that was me.
Awesome. Thank you all for joining. I'm gonna stick around and answer some more questions because there's like 30 questions left. But you all are free to go. You don't have to stay unless you want to. Yeah.
I can stay for a little bit.
Yeah, I can stay
Okay.
too. I don't have anything else.
Okay.
Bonus for all of you.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. What else do we have? Alex, somebody wanted to see your portfolio and Sadi shared it with them and your photo shoot that you have on there. After I saw your photo shoot, I was like, we need a photo shoot over here.
Alex and
Okay,
Plunder.com. That's it.
Yeah. Would you guys consider yourselves to be senior level?
No.
No, none of you. Yeah.
No, definitely.
Yeah. Let's see. There's bonuses based. Oh, somebody was asking, any of you have bonuses like in your jobs, like performance-based bonuses? No, right? I think that was Carlota and she dropped it.
No,
I do, but I don't know
Oh.
how it works, honestly.
Okay.
yeah, I'm not sure either. I started in December, so I didn't get the one from 2021.
Yeah.
Because I started too late, but I think it's based on company performance and not individual performance. It's maybe a combination of those things.
Yeah, it's usually company performance. Sometimes it's like individual performance and then company performance. Like the company has this big pool of money and based on like your tiered level or something, like you get a certain percentage off of your
There's
salary.
Math involved.
Yep. Yeah. It's just like a nice little bit of money that you probably lose half in taxes before it gets to you.
You would typically get like your traditional merit increases like at the end of the year. So like your salary is only going to go up, obviously, but I would say a lot of companies do it like that, just like off the company. And then if your team has some sort of bonus structure, they'll probably let you know in the interview.
Yeah. So this question says, you're all newish in the field. Have you ever encountered I absolutely don't know this moment, and how did you handle it?
I don't remember having that moment, but if it comes up, I'll be honest. I can't answer you right now, but I'll find out, right? That's okay. Nobody knows 100% of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say that like being honest is the best way to go. Like it's like I've said before, it's a really complicated industry that I'm in. And so and I got pushed right into a project kind of in the middle. I took over for someone that left, and I didn't get to talk to them about what they had done already. And so there were a lot of questions from developers like, what was your thinking behind this? And I was like, I didn't even design that, but I will try to answer this question. And I would say, like, I'm still learning, but I think this is how it should go. And then I would ask a teammate too, like, hey, what do you think about this? Or I would say, I'll get back to you when I figure it out. So those kinds of things I think go a long way with people.
Yeah, definitely. Being honest is definitely the best method here.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those, a good company isn't worried about you not, about you knowing a skill set right away. They can train you on all those things realistically. So it's, as long as you're honest and excited to learn, just take that one question.
Yeah, and we also Lynn here posted something like, we teach you how to find the answer to something, and we teach you how to learn. Like, we teach you how to learn new tools, right? And I think that's something we stress in the course. Like, sure, we're teaching you Envision, but really what we're teaching you is how to learn a new prototyping tool. Like, once you know one, you should be able to learn some of the other ones. On similar note, did you ever feel like you hit a creator's block when working on projects, whether it was in foundations or like in your job, and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, ask for feedback if you ever get to that point. It doesn't happen a lot because ideally, you have a lot of discovery and research before you start making these creative decisions. But there are times where you're, especially if you're spending a lot of time on one specific feature, you've seen it so many times for like an entire week. It's normal to do a meeting with your UX team so that everyone looks at it and gives you some feedback right away, and then you can kind of iterate from there.
Yeah, those design feedback sessions are really helpful for kind of getting past a block. And I would say for me, it happens more with like, kind of depends on the thing. Like if it's a problem I'm solving, I'm usually pretty good at figuring it out. But if it's like, what color should this be? Those are the kinds of things that I struggle with. Kind of like, and especially in my own foundations project, that was the like look and feel was the hard part for me. And so, yeah, getting feedback, asking other people is like the best way to get through those spots.
Any advice for someone that's on the fence about starting this career? I would say it's like, do it, and it's not super easy. Like and this is what I tell everybody, like, it's not easy. Like, you have to put in time and work. But I think it's definitely rewarding, especially if you're like very unhappy in your current job and are looking for something different, and you think this will bring you like a sense of fulfillment. But yeah, and I don't know, but sometimes we hear from past grads, like, I wish I would have done this sooner, or like, I wish I, I wasn't so scared of the success that comes with it. But I don't know if you all have any other advice.
Yeah, I would say that I wish I had done it sooner.
Honestly.
But also like do as much learning as you need to before you jump in. Like I like other boot camps sometimes do like free info sessions about what is UX, kind of like do those, read lots of articles online about what UX is and what people's day-to-day come to things like this. It's really helpful to kind of get an idea of if you'll be good at it and if you'll enjoy it.
I would say that what I did, and this was more accidental if anything, and I will now recommend it to everyone, do the course. You'll get a better idea of what the field is like when you're going through the course. And at that point, you haven't committed to a field, you're just going through the course. It doesn't hurt to learn something, but it's also a very transferable field. So use these skills in your existing job, and then you'll get a better idea of as well how it feels like in that real work environment, especially if you work for maybe already a company that has a product team or a UX team. You can shadow them, you can work with them on some things. I did that. So I got to see more of these like real life situations, and I understood what that day-to-day was more. And then that helped sell me more on the job. Not that I wasn't already sold, but that's what I would say for anyone who's on the fence is learn, do it, see if you can transfer those skills into your existing job. And if at that point you're still on the fence, then, you can cross that bridge when you get there.
Yeah, I did quite a few like informational interviews with people like years ago when I was trying to decide if I wanted to do UX too. That was really helpful.
I agree with both of you. And also for all of you guys that are listening in right now, I definitely have to say I'm probably not exaggerating, but UX has to do with everything in life. So you definitely, like Alex said, even if you're not trying to jump in this industry, you can't commit to it, but it can definitely help with every single job in the world. Like everything can link to UX.
Mhm.
Yeah.
For my job specifically, I got it because of a project that I did. That's not even in my portfolio. It was something that I did for my existing job, and it was all about a process that I created using UX methods. But I didn't actually build out an actual digital solution. It was just a process that I created using the same thought process, and they like that. They love to see that you're innovative like that. So it's problem solving. That's really all it is in a gist. So with a lot of extra stuff, but it's problem solving.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So there's a question here about work-life balance. We sort of touched on this, but it's specifically to having children. So if you have children, what is your work-life balance during the day?
I think I'm the only one.
I think that's you. Carlotta dropped.
Yeah, I have a toddler, and she is not here during the day. So I don't know. I honestly, she's a lot. So I wouldn't be able to get any work done if she was home. She goes to daycare in grandma's house. So yeah, I think probably there are some companies where you could do that, but I have a lot of meetings during the day, and I don't think, but like I said, like my company is like really great. Like if she's sick and I have to go pick her up, and I just text my boss or message my boss, and they're like, do what you need to do, we'll catch up tomorrow. Like it's really like low stress. And also like my boss and my boss's boss both have families, and like they get it. And so
Yeah.
I think, you know, if that's important to you, or if that's your life, then you need to find a company that will be, understanding.
I was just about to say, it depends on the company, but most of them, they get it, especially like the entire world is working remote now. Like they all had to adapt to this entire situation. But even if you don't have kids, I mean, for me, I travel a lot. So sometimes I'm going to the airport and working from an airport. And as long as I have access to a meeting, if there's one happening, like Wi-Fi, they probably don't care. So it just depends on the company ultimately.
Yeah, I think most companies probably don't care. You're hired for a remote position anyway, right?
Yeah.
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 Our director told us is that I don't care where you guys are, as long as you get your job done. I don't care where you are right now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
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 Because even if you are a contractor and you're billed by the hour, it's one of those things
Yeah.
like just value their time as much as you should, but also value your time. You're a human, and if you have kids or if you have things going on, you can't function properly at work unless you balance that out. So you always come first.
Yeah. Let's do some quick fires. So there's a question here about what type of equipment you would recommend for the course or remote work. I'll answer for the course, and you all can like maybe share like your favorite gadget or favorite tech thing that either your company gave you or you bought. For the course, you need a computer with internet access. You cannot do the course from an iPad. No matter how many times I say this, we have students that are like, why can't I use this up? It doesn't work on an iPad. So you need a computer because that's what you're going to use in the real world. And that's the students that go to the library. So you just need access to a computer that has good internet access. But for you all, what is like, like a life changer? Like, for example, I have this little
I was just about to
trackpad.
say that.
Yeah.
A trackpad
Yeah.
or like a
Yeah.
mouse. Please get a mouse at
Yeah.
least. It's
Yeah.
so, especially for Figma, it's so don't even use a regular computer app trackpad for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Any
Yeah,
others?
I wouldn't be able to, I mean, I learned how to use like all the Adobe products, and you kind of need a mouse to use those too. So
Yeah.
I'm used to using a mouse. I don't know if I could do it without. And I also find it very helpful to have a second monitor.
I have
In my
two.
I have my laptop, which is right here, and then my monitor, which is next to it. And some people on my team have two monitors. But I find like a lot of times I'm designing products that are already in existence. And so I have to have them open in one screen just to see like, how does this work now? Or like, where do you go next when you're on this screen? So it's really helpful to have some like other stuff up on the other screen. That's kind of and I will say, if you can afford it or you can make your house work for it, to have a dedicated space.
Yeah.
I have an office at home, which is really nice. And I know that that's like definitely a luxury for a lot of people. And so, but it is nice to have a dedicated space.
I would say that an extra monitor is great if possible too. two things that I want to add to that. One, if you get a job, they're probably going to supply you with
Yeah,
one. Like my
nice.
company
Yeah.
sent me my laptop, my monitors, keyboard, mouse, all that stuff. But if you're on your own just for the course, yeah, just a laptop's fine. I would say that it's more comfortable if you're just going to use a laptop, more comfortable with a bigger screen like laptop as opposed to like a small MacBook Air. Not to mention, depending on how many programs you're using, you want something that has a good processor, so it's not so slow and like burning up. But that's all.
Although I
Yeah.
think the new MacBook Air is actually pretty good. It's pretty strong. It's strong enough to support our UX design, day-to-day kind of life. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it.
So we have questions about interviewing for in-person jobs. Right now, it's honestly easier to find a remote job than an in-person job. We have a hard time, like we have partners that send us in-person roles and we have a hard time filling them. And then we have some students that want to work in-person roles and we have to tell them to be a little bit flexible, like hybrid or, something in their area that they can ultimately go into an office. But for the most part, things are still remote. We had a student just get a job for CVS where relocation is required, but they don't think they're going to go back to the office this year. And we're only in March. So it's essentially still remote, right? So that's kind of the case.
Yeah,
we have
and I will say, like, my office lets people go in if they want to, but no one on my team does.
yeah.
If you want to work for like an in-office thing, you're probably gonna have the most luck with like those local startups that they also want to work from a physical location. But even those are typically hybrid. They're only there a couple days a week.
Yeah. We have questions about alumni in FANG and big tech. I'm going to just say some company names people know. So we have Morgan Stanley, IBM, GM, Oracle, Clear, if you travel a lot, H&R Block, if you're about to do your taxes, Deloitte, Johnson & Johnson, JP Morgan Chase, CVS, so Dick's Sporting Goods, Dell. So we do have like some well-known name grads. But to be honest, I find that students have the best experiences are the grads at like the companies nobody's heard of, because they get much more, they learn much faster because you're just kind of like dropped into something either by yourself or with another person and you're kind of like forced to learn. What software do you use on a daily basis?
Figma.
Figma.
Yeah, Figma is definitely picking up.
Figma's probably the most popular one.
Yeah.
And if you're into UX research, then obviously all the user testing websites. At Morgan Stanley, we use usertesting.com. So you might want to get used to websites like that.
Yeah. We just started a partnership with them, actually, like an educational partnership. So we give access to all of our Career Jumpstart students. Most of the projects we started doing that. Any industry podcasts that or accounts impactful to you?
I have some podcasts. There's a UX podcast called UX Podcast. There's another one called Honest UX Talks. Mixed Methods, and that's all I would say.
Awesome. Cool. No other ones? Okay. And then one last question. Is this a good career for someone who's shy?
Yes.
There's
Yeah.
tons of, especially in tech, there's tons of introverts, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised even on my team, because you might think that being a researcher, you might have to talk a lot or whatever, but a lot of my coworkers are actually pretty shy. They're conservative. They tell me that,
And even from a research perspective or like a testing perspective, you want the user talking more than you. So it's just, it's great. You ask them a couple questions.
Very fair point. Yes.
Yeah, I would say like being an introvert is like, this is a great job because you're working, a lot of times you are working independently. But you have to also be comfortable with giving feedback and asking for feedback. I would say,
Presenting your work.
and presenting your work. Those are things you might not have to do it very often, but you do have to be comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Depending on your role, you might be doing a lot of like actual like talks and meetings and things like that, like telling people like what's new, or maybe like if there's a new method you want to train the entire team on, you might need to do that, but typically you have time to prepare that. So
Awesome. Thank you all. We've kept you like way over the time that you all
That's
volunteered
fine.
to be here for. But a lot of really nice messages from folks saying this has been helpful. If anybody that's listening has any more questions, if you're already a student, feel free to message on Slack. And if you're not a student, you can email us at info@avocademy.com. And those emails I get to see. And they also get forwarded to the right person if it is not a question for me. But yeah, thank you all for joining today. Great turnout.
thanks for having
Yeah.
us.
Bye.
Have a great day, guys.
Bye.